Welcome to a quiet corner of the night, here with Dreamtime Science. Envision a cozy study, warmed by the amber flicker of candlelight, where the delicate rustle of flipping pages mingles with the hush of the world outside. You've arrived just in time for a peaceful voyage, one that carries you gently between waking and dreaming. If you find comfort in these stories, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would share your presence with us, and a comment telling us from where you listen would be a quiet gift. Now, ease yourself back into your resting place. Invite the cool softness of your blanket. Let your breath flow deep and calm. Together we will slowly unveil wonders meant to cradle your mind and ease your heart. When you are ready, we'll begin, slowly, softly, simply. Tonight we'll glide very slowly, very gently through the quiet mysteries that shimmer just beyond our reach, whispering of a moon that might be more than it seems. Wrapped in wild theories and strange, soft facts, this gentle journey invites your wonder to drift like stardust on a calm night breeze. From our safe, pillow-soft distance, let's explore the moon's quiet secrets and see what dreams they might inspire. Should you find solace in these cosmic lullabies, consider becoming a regular dreamer by subscribing. Share what topics intrigue your curious mind in the comments below. First, let's create the perfect space for learning. Cocoon yourself in comfort. Release any lingering tension and let your breath become soft and steady. Night descends, and with it, the old and faithful moon rises to claim its place in the vault of the sky. Pale and unwavering, it stares down through drifting veils of cloud, illuminating the world with a borrowed, spectral light. Across the ages, countless eyes have gazed upward at this silvery companion, stirred by its presence and perplexed by its unwavering cycles. No other celestial body has so quietly haunted the human imagination, nor so persistently woven itself into the fabric of our myth and memory. Tonight, as you settle into the hush of evening, let us drift together through the deep currents of moonlit wonder and follow the threads of the silver orb story as it winds through culture, curiosity, and the outer edge of speculation. The moon has always been much more than a rock in the sky. Upon its face, ancient peoples saw the shapes of gods and animals, lovers and tricksters. It was a clock before there were clocks, marking time with its changing shape. A slow, silent metronome, counting out the months, the tides, the seasons of planting and harvest. The earliest calendars, scratched onto bone or painted in ochre on cave walls, reflect the attentive gaze of our ancestors. Archaeologists have uncovered tally marks, spiraling and rhythmic, that seem to mirror the moon's waxing and waning. Long before the written word, humanity was already taking note of the moon's regularity, its faithful return from darkness to fullness and back again. Consider the ancient Sumerians, who watched the moon with such reverence that they named their city after it, the city of Nana, the moon god. Their priests tracked the lunar cycles, weaving them into the rhythms of worship and governance. In Egypt the moon was Thoth, the keeper of wisdom and the reckoner of time, his crescent-crowned head a fixture in sacred iconography. Far to the east, in China, the moon was Chang'e, the goddess who drank the elixir of immortality and drifted upward to dwell in lonely splendor. Each culture, in its own way, found in the moon a mirror for its hopes and fears, its longings and its sense of cosmic order. The moon's influence is not only poetic but practical. Its pull on the Earth's oceans gives rise to the tides, a slow breathing that shapes coastlines and nurtures life in the shallows. Many animals, from the horseshoe crab to the coral polyp, time their reproductive cycles to the lunar rhythm, gathering by the thousands to spawn in moonlit waters. For early humans, the full moon meant extra hours of light for hunting, for storytelling, for rituals that bound the tribe together. Even today, our language echoes with lunar allusions, lunacy, moonstruck, honeymoon, remnants of a time when the moon's power was mysterious, unpredictable, and perhaps a little dangerous. So deeply has the moon inscribed itself upon the psyche that it became a canvas for the imagination. It was the realm of deities, the destination of dreamers and heroes. In Greek myth, the moon was Artemis, huntress and protector, swift as a shaft of silver light. The Roman goddess Luna rode her chariot across the heavens, her pale horses scattering stardust in their wake. In India, Chandra, the moon god, presided over night and fertility, his gentle beams soothing the fevered brow. The Aztecs told of Coyolxauhqui, the dismembered moon goddess, whose story was written in the very phases of the moon as she waxed, waned, and was reborn. There is a curious universality to these myths. Though separated by oceans and centuries, cultures everywhere have seen in the moon a symbol of change, of death and rebirth, of mystery and yearning. The lunar phases became metaphors for the human condition, our cycles of hope and despair, our journeys from darkness to light. Poets and painters, philosophers and mystics, all have turned to the moon for inspiration, finding in its cold glow the perfect backdrop for meditation and reverie. And yet, for all its intimacy, the moon remains tantalizingly out of reach, even as telescopes revealed its craters and mountains, even as astronauts left footprints in its dust. The moon has never fully surrendered its secrets. Some mysteries are physical, the question of its origins, the riddle of its interior, the reason for its strange, synchronous dance with Earth. Others are more atmospheric, woven from the stuff of legend and longing. It is here, in the twilight between science and story, that the moon's greatest enigma emerges. For all our measurements and models, the moon is a riddle that refuses to be solved completely. Its very presence is peculiar, a satellite far larger than any other in proportion to its planet, orbiting at just the right distance to create total solar eclipses, its size and location, a cosmic coincidence so striking that some have wondered if it is a coincidence at all. Pause for a moment and let your mind wander along the edge of this possibility. Imagine the night before the moon, if such a time ever existed, when the earth spun unaccompanied through the cosmos. What a different world that would have been. No tides, no regular lunar months, no beacon to guide the lost or to inspire the poet's pen. The moon's arrival, whenever and however it came, changed everything. Modern science offers theories, each fascinating in its own right. Some say the moon was once part of the earth, torn free by a colossal impact billions of years ago, then drawn into orbit by gravity's inexorable pull. Others propose it was a wanderer captured by Earth's embrace after drifting through the solar system. Yet neither story answers all the questions. The moon's composition is uncannily similar to Earth's crust, but oddly lacking in iron. Its orbit is almost perfectly circular, a rarity among celestial satellites, and its face always turned toward us, locked in a gravitational embrace that has lasted for eons. These peculiarities have not gone unnoticed. In the hush of night, when the world is quiet and the mind free to roam, some have allowed themselves to wonder, could the moon be more than it seems? Is it possible that our companion in the sky is, in some sense, artificial? It is a wild thought, one that brushes against the boundaries of acceptable scientific speculation. Yet throughout history, the moon has been a magnet for wild thoughts. The Greek philosopher Anaxagoras was imprisoned for suggesting that the moon was made not of ether or divine substance, but of stone, illuminated by the reflected light of the sun. Centuries later, the English bishop and scientist John Wilkins dreamed of travelling to the moon by chariot, convinced it was a world like ours, perhaps even inhabited. In the 20th century, as humanity finally reached the moon's surface, new questions arose from the data brought back by Apollo's astronauts and their instruments. Among the more provocative ideas is the so-called hollow moon hypothesis, which first gained traction in the 1970s. When seismic instruments were left behind by Apollo missions and deliberately struck with spent rocket stages, the moon rang with a resonance that lasted far longer than expected. Like a bell, some reporters said at the time. To some, this suggested a structure more akin to a shell than a solid body. Scientists explained it as a consequence of the moon's dry, fractured interior, but the image lingered, the moon ringing like a bell, echoing across the void. From these echoes, a handful of theorists leapt into the unknown. What if the moon was not a natural satellite at all, but an artifact, constructed or at least hollowed by some intelligence far older than humankind? They pointed to the moon's curious orbit and size, its improbable placement, and the strange regularities in its physical properties. The idea takes many shapes. Sometimes the moon is a spaceship, camouflaged beneath a thick mantle of rock and dust. Sometimes it is a monument, a cosmic lighthouse, or even an ancient observatory placed to watch over the earth. This is, of course, a fringe notion, unsupported by mainstream science. The overwhelming weight of evidence points to natural origins, shaped by the slow violence of cosmic collisions and the patient sculpting of gravity. Yet the artificial moon hypothesis persists, not because it is likely, but because it is enchanting. It is a story that speaks to the deep, unquenched thirst for mystery, the longing to find meaning in the patterns of the cosmos, the hope that we are not alone or unobserved. Even in scientific circles, the moon remains a source of fascination precisely because it is so improbable. Its size and distance make possible the miracle of a total solar eclipse, a spectacle found nowhere else in our solar system, as the moon's disk perfectly covers the sun, revealing the hidden corona in a blaze of ghostly fire. The odds against such a perfect fit are astronomical, yet here it is, a recurring wonder that has shaped religions and scientific revolutions alike. Some have gone further, suggesting that the moon's influence on Earth was essential for life to flourish. Its gravitational pull stabilizes the tilt of our planet's axis, preventing wild swings that would bring chaos to the climate. Its tidal forces may have helped life emerge from the primordial seas, nurturing the first fragile steps onto land. Remove the moon, and the story of life on Earth might have been very different, perhaps shorter, perhaps sadder, perhaps never written at all. So we are left with a paradox. The moon is both familiar and alien, both ordinary and miraculous. It is a chunk of rock, and it is the stuff of dreams. Its physical presence shapes the world in ways we are only beginning to understand, while its image haunts our stories and songs. Whether it is an accident of cosmic history or something more deliberate, the moon remains the ultimate enigma, a reminder that the universe is far stranger and far more beautiful than we can ever fully comprehend. Let your thoughts linger on this possibility as the night deepens. The ancient stories, the scientific riddles, the wild speculations, they all swirl together like shadows dancing in moonlight. Somewhere between fact and fantasy, the moon waits, its silver face inscrutable, its secrets hidden just beneath the surface. In the next unfolding of our journey, we will turn from myth to mechanism and peer more closely at the moon's physical nature, its structure, its scars, its silent, watchful gaze. For now, let the mystery settle around you, as soft and cool as a beam of moonlight on your pillow. The moon looms, still and enigmatic, in the velvet silence above. It has pulled at the tides of human curiosity for as long as eyes have lifted to the sky. Across cultures and centuries, countless stories and calculations have been spun to explain its presence. Yet, in the hush of midnight, another question sometimes stirs. Is the moon as it seems, or could there be more, something wondrously artificial, something constructed or guided by design, rather than born of cosmic happenstance? Such musings, though they skirt the edge of speculation, are not new. They dwell at the hazy border where science, imagination, and the unknown entwine. Let us for a time set aside the familiar comfort of textbook certainties and peer into the complexities and curiosities that have fueled the notion of an artificial moon. First, we must consider what it would mean for our satellite to be artificial. The very word conjures images of deliberate construction, of machinery and intent, of vast cosmic architects at work. And yet, when we look up, we see only a pale, cratered orb, its surface battered, its phases predictable, its presence constant. Still, the moon's peculiarities have inspired a litany of questions, some of which linger stubbornly at the edge of consensus. One such peculiarity lies in the moon's size and placement. It is an uncanny coincidence, some say too uncanny, that the moon, while vastly smaller than the sun, appears almost exactly the same size in our sky. This is what gifts us the rare spectacle of a total solar eclipse, the moon's disk slipping perfectly over the sun's, veiling its fiery crown in a fleeting celestial drama. Statistically, such alignment is vanishingly rare among the planets in our solar system. The moon is about 1/400th the diameter of the sun, and it is about 400 times closer to Earth than the sun is. That ratio, so precise, so clean, has long struck astronomers as a cosmic quirk, a happy accident perhaps, or, to some, a subtle sign of intention. Then there is the moon's orbital dance. Unlike most moons, which tend to orbit close to their planet's equator, our moon's orbit is tilted some 5 degrees to the ecliptic, the flat plane in which Earth and most other planets travel around the sun. This oddity is not easily explained by simple models of gravitational capture or accretion. If the moon formed from the same disk of dust that birthed the Earth, why the tilt? If it was captured, what slowed it enough to settle into its current, almost perfectly circular orbit? These questions have vexed planetary scientists for decades, and while the prevailing giant impact hypothesis, the idea that a Mars-sized body struck the Earth and ejected lunar material, provides plausible answers, the details remain stubbornly elusive. Such mysteries open the door ever so slightly to more speculative ideas. Among the most provocative is the theory that the moon may not be entirely natural. Some proponents suggest it could be an artifact, a shell, a vessel, or even a beacon, placed or altered by unknown intelligences eons ago. This hypothesis, while lacking in concrete evidence, is not entirely without foundation in observation. It is, in many ways, a mirror held up to the limitations of our understanding and the gaps in our models. One of the earliest modern proponents of this idea was the Soviet astronomer Mikhail Vasin, who, with engineer Alexander Shcherbakov, penned a paper in 1970 proposing the moon as a hollowed-out planetoid, perhaps engineered by an ancient civilization. Their argument, though playful and speculative, drew upon a series of oddities observed by lunar missions. Chief among these was the curious behavior of the moon during moonquakes, vibrations caused by meteorite impacts or tidal stresses from the Earth. Seismometers placed on the lunar surface by Apollo astronauts recorded that, in some impacts, the moon rang like a bell, reverberating for hours in a way unlike any terrestrial quake. This ringing, they posited, could be consistent with a shell-like structure, perhaps metallic and hollow. In reality, later studies suggested that the dry, rigid lunar crust simply transmits vibrations differently from Earth's damp, fractured mantle. Yet the notion lingered, colouring the popular imagination. What if, beneath the dust and craters, something artificial echoed? To test these ideas, scientists turned to the evidence at hand: moondust and mirrors. The Apollo missions, in their brief but epoch-making journeys, returned with 382 kilograms of lunar rocks and regolith. These samples, painstakingly catalogued and studied, revealed a world both alien and familiar. The rocks, rich in anorthosite and basalt, told of ancient volcanic eruptions and a surface bombarded by meteors. The isotopic ratios, those subtle fingerprints of elemental origin, matched Earth's mantle so closely that it supported the theory of a shared, violent birth. And yet not every question was answered. The moondust, so fine it clung to spacesuits and instruments, proved a puzzle. Its sharp-edged grains suggested a world untouched by wind or water, but some researchers noted unusual magnetic and electrical properties, whispers of exotic elements, or of micro-objects, unlike any on Earth, occasionally crept into the literature. These hints have never coalesced into a coherent case for artificiality, but they serve as reminders that the moon story is still being written in laboratories and clean rooms across the world. Then there are the mirrors, the laser retroreflectors left by Apollo 11, 14 and 15, as well as the Soviet Lunokhod rovers. These mirrored panels, each no larger than a suitcase, are among the most quietly profound scientific instruments ever deployed. They reflect pulses of light sent from Earth, allowing us to measure the distance to the moon with millimeter precision. This simple act, timing the echo of a laser, has revealed that the moon is drifting away from us, receding by about 3.8 centimeters per year. Tidal interactions, that subtle gravitational tug-of-war, are slowly loosening our celestial companion's embrace. But the very act of sending and receiving these laser pulses is a kind of ongoing experiment. It is a test of the moon's stability, its orientation, its response to the gentle push and pull of sunlight and gravity. Over the decades, the data has confirmed that the moon's rotation is remarkably consistent, locked in synchronous orbit, so that one face always gazes down upon us. This tidal locking, so precisely maintained over eons, is a natural outcome of gravitational physics, but it is also, in its own way, a marvel of cosmic engineering, whether by chance or by design. Beyond the realm of direct observation, the artificial moon theory also probes the limits of our understanding in more subtle ways. Consider, for instance, the question of lunar craters. The moon's surface, when viewed through a telescope or in the stark imagery returned by orbiters, is a tapestry of scars, circular wounds layered atop one another, the record of billions of years of bombardment. Yet unlike craters on Earth, which often show deep basins and complex central peaks, lunar craters tend to be shallower than expected. Some theorists have seized upon this as evidence for a strong, possibly metallic subsurface, suggesting that impacts are cushioned or deflected by an artificial shell. Mainstream geology, however, points to the Moon's low gravity and lack of atmospheric erosion as the cause. The regolith, a layer of fragmentary rock and dust, absorbs much of the impact energy, and the underlying crust is rigid but not metallic. Still, the debate underscores how the Moon's every feature is subject to multiple interpretations, how each observation is a mirror, reflecting both what we know and what we wish to know. The artificial moon theory, in all its forms, is ultimately a response to uncertainty. It is fueled by the gaps in our explanations, by the anomalies that resist easy answers. And it is here, in these liminal spaces, that science is at its most delicate and most daring. To probe the Moon's secrets is to accept that some questions may never yield complete closure, that doubt is as integral to inquiry as proof. Yet the pursuit continues. Orbiters and landers, like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and China's Chang'e missions, have mapped the Moon's surface in exquisite detail, revealing rilles and domes, lava tubes, and hidden mass concentrations. These mascons, regions of unusual gravitational strength, were once considered mysterious, but are now understood as the fossilized remnants of ancient impacts and lava flows. Still, the Moon keeps some secrets close, whispering only to those who listen with patience and humility. Perhaps the greatest limit to our understanding is simply our vantage point. We have walked upon the Moon, but only briefly, and only in a handful of places. The far side, shielded from Earth's gaze, remains largely unexplored by human footprints. Vast lava plains and shadowed craters, some never touched by sunlight, lie waiting for the next generation of explorers and instruments. What might we find in those frozen abysses? What stories lie written in the language of rock and dust, awaiting translation? There are too the questions that science is only now learning to ask. Is the Moon unique, or are there echoes of its strangeness among the countless other moons that circle other planets, or worlds yet unimagined orbiting distant stars? What might an artificial satellite look like if fashioned by hands not our own? Would it bear the marks of intention, the signature of design, or would it, like our Moon, wear the mask of the natural, blending in so perfectly that its origins are forever hidden? In contemplating such possibilities, we are forced to confront the boundaries of our methods. Science is a discipline of evidence and inference, of skepticism and rigor. The artificial moon theory, for all its allure, remains unproven, an idea that circles the edge of plausibility, neither fully embraced nor entirely dismissed. It serves, in this way, as a kind of thought experiment, a test of the flexibility and humility of our inquiry. Yet this humility is itself a kind of strength, for in the spaces between certainty and doubt wonder flourishes. The Moon, whether natural or otherwise, remains our companion and our challenge, a puzzle whose pieces may never fit perfectly, whose image may always be just out of reach. In the quiet hours, as the Moon drifts across the window pane, its light silvering the floor, we are reminded that not every mystery must be solved, that some questions are worth asking for their own sake. The artificial moon theory is, perhaps, less about the final answer than about the journey, the restless curiosity that leads us to peer more deeply, to question more fiercely, to imagine more boldly. As we drift onward through this night of inquiry, the moon remains, serene and indifferent, casting its silent spell. Ahead, new methods and machines await, lunar probes and telescopes, quantum sensors, and AI-driven analyses, each promising to peel back another layer of the moon's ancient, inscrutable face. What they will reveal and what questions will remain is a story still unfolding, written in shadows and in light. Across the silent gulf between Earth and Moon, there has always existed a bridge, a slender, shifting connection, wrought of curiosity and patient observation. Before spacecraft, before engines and electronics, there was the human desire to see, to understand, to reach with eye and mind toward the distant, glowing orb. The moon, for all its nearness, is a world apart, and our efforts to study it, our lenses, our journeys, our instruments, reveal as much about ourselves as about that ancient companion in the sky. In the earliest epochs, the moon was an enigma, a source of myth and portent. Its pale face was scrutinized with the naked eye, stories woven from shifting shadows and changing phases. The first tools, if they can be called such, were merely sharpened senses and unclouded nights. Patterns were noted, the regular waxing and waning, the monthly dance through phases, markings on bone and stone, tallying the cycle of the moon, are among humanity's oldest scientific records. The moon, reliable in its rhythm, became a kind of clock in the heavens. But its true nature remained far away, blurred and indistinct. The first great leap in our study of the moon came not from a new material invention, but from a shift in perspective, a realization that seeing could be deepened, that the eye could be extended. In the early 17th century, the telescope was born. A simple arrangement of glass lenses, it was a device at once humble and revolutionary. Galileo Galilei, peering through his handcrafted instrument in 1609, turned its gaze skyward and was greeted by a revelation. The moon, long imagined as a perfect smooth sphere, was instead a rugged landscape marked by mountains and valleys, pitted with craters. The telescope in that moment transformed the moon from a symbol into a place. Galileo's sketches, rendered with trembling excitement, show the first close-up glimpses of lunar terrain. Dark Maria spreading like seas across the surface, bright highlands catching sunlight at the terminator, craters casting inky shadows across the dawn. These were not mere marks on paper, they were the first maps of another world. Others soon followed, refining telescopes, grinding finer lenses, making more detailed observations. Each improvement in optics brought the moon closer, revealing it in ever-increasing detail. The moon, it seemed, had a geography, a history written in rock and dust. As telescopes grew, so did the ambitions of their makers. In the 19th century, grand refractors and reflectors were erected in domed observatories, their polished mirrors and lenses gathering faint lunar light. Astronomers pored over their viewports, sketching and measuring, annotating every rilli and wrinkle. They named the lunar features, Mare Imbrium, Oceanus Procellarum, the vast Tycho crater. Some even speculated at the possibility of life, imagining forests or cities in the moon's darker plains, though no evidence was ever found. Photography soon joined their efforts, with silvered plates capturing the moon's visage in stark monochrome. Yet all these tools, wondrous as they were, could only peer across the void. The moon's secrets, its age, its composition, its history, remained elusive. Even the most powerful telescopes are bound by the atmosphere, the ever-present shimmer and distortion of air. Astronomers learned to wait for rare moments of perfect stillness, when the lunar image would sharpen for a heartbeat, a fleeting window into clarity. With the coming of the 20th century, another revolution unfolded. Radio astronomy, radar, and eventually the space age itself would offer new ways of knowing. Radar beams bounced off the moon's surface and returned to Earth, yielded hints of its texture and even its distance, measured to astonishing precision. The moon's subtle gravitational tug on passing spacecraft revealed the hidden bumps and dips of its mass, mapping out the invisible contours beneath the regolith. But it was the space age, born of ambition and rivalry, that would bring the moon within arm's reach. The journey began with robotic emissaries, silent, unfeeling scouts sent across the void. The Soviet Union's lunar program was first, with Luna 2 striking the lunar surface in 1959, a brief flash of achievement. Luna 3 soon followed, swinging around the moon to photograph its far side for the first time in human history. For millennia, only one face of the moon had been visible from Earth. The far side, forever turned away, was a blank canvas for imagination. Luna 3's photographs, grainy but momentous, revealed a battered, cratered realm, so different from the familiar near side. The United States answered with its Ranger, Surveyor, and Lunar Orbiter programs. Ranger probes crash-landed into the moon, sending back close-up images in their final moments, each frame a narrowing spiral of craters and boulders, culminating in blur and silence. Surveyors, more delicate, descended on jets of flame and rested gently on the lunar soil, their mechanical limbs sampling the dust. Lunar orbiters circled overhead, snapping thousands of photographs, mapping the moon in unprecedented detail. These efforts were not merely scientific, they were scouts for the next most audacious phase, human exploration. The Apollo program, with its Saturn V rockets and daring astronauts, stands as perhaps the most iconic chapter in lunar study. On July 20, 1969, as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot on the Sea of Tranquility, the moon became both a subject and a participant in human history. The tools they brought were humble by modern standards: hammers, scoops, cameras, reflectors, but the data they gathered transformed our understanding. Rock samples, carefully bagged and ferried home, yielded the moon's age, about 4.5 billion years, nearly as ancient as the Earth itself. Instruments left behind, seismometers, laser reflectors, heat probes, turned the moon into a listening post, recording moonquakes and the endless hail of micrometeorites. Even the footprints, pressed into the powdery regolith, told a story. The lunar soil, fine and dry, held each mark with eerie precision, undisturbed by wind or rain. The absence of atmosphere meant no erosion, no weathering. A footprint could last for billions of years, a silent testament to our fleeting presence. The moon, once glimpsed only from afar, was now known by touch and by taste, its rocks held in gloved hands, its dust inhaled by astronaut suits and lungs. Apollo's legacy is not only in the samples returned, but in the shift it wrought in our perception. The moon was no longer a remote light in the sky, but a place, one that could be visited, studied, and perhaps one day inhabited. Yet, for all its triumphs, Apollo was brief. After a handful of missions, the great rockets grew silent, and the moon returned to its quiet watch above the Earth. In the decades that followed, lunar exploration became once again the province of robotic explorers. Orbiters and landers, ever more sophisticated, circled and touched down on the moon, their sensors probing every detail. Japan's Kaguya, China's Chang'e series, India's Chandrayaan, and NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter have each brought new eyes to the moon. High-definition cameras map every crater, radar peels back the soil to search for hidden ice, spectrometers sniff out the chemistry of rocks untouched for eons. The moon's poles, once little more than shadows, are now revealed as places of deep interest, a realm where water ice may lurk in perpetual darkness, a resource for future explorers. Our tools, once simple glass lenses, have become intricate webs of silicon and code. Remote sensing instruments can discern minerals, infer temperatures, and even detect the faint afterglow of radioactive decay. Laser altimeters sweep across the surface, producing maps of astonishing resolution, every hill, every depression rendered in digital relief. The moon is not only observed, it is measured, catalogued, digitized. Yet despite this flood of data, the sense of mystery persists. For every answer, new questions emerge. How did the moon form? Why is its far side so different from its near side? What secrets lie buried beneath its ancient crust? In recent years, private companies and new spacefaring nations have joined the quest. Small landers and rovers, their designs as varied as their missions, aim to test new technologies, prospect for resources, and pave the way for eventual human return. The moon has become a proving ground, a stepping stone on the path to deeper space. Each mission brings with it a cargo of instruments, spectrometers, cameras, drills, and even small greenhouses, probing not only the moon's geology, but its potential to support future life. And still, there are the astronomers on Earth, their telescopes growing ever more powerful. Adaptive optics now compensate for atmospheric turbulence, sharpening lunar images to a clarity once thought impossible. Amateurs, too, join the effort, their backyard telescopes capturing fleeting moments of beauty. A crater rim illuminated at lunar sunrise, a meteor strike flashing on the dark side. The study of the moon has become a shared endeavor, a mosaic of many eyes and many minds. Yet for all our tools and journeys, the moon remains, in some sense, just beyond our grasp. Its surface, mapped and sampled, still keeps its deepest history locked away in ancient rocks and hidden basins. The instruments we send must endure searing heat and frigid cold, piercing radiation and abrasive dust. Each observation, each landing, is a conversation across a chasm, a dialogue between worlds. There is poetry in the tools we use, in the way each lens, each sensor is an extension of our desire to know. The moon, so familiar and so strange, draws us onward, not only as a subject of study, but as a mirror for our own ingenuity and persistence. The history of lunar exploration is not just a chronicle of missions and machines, but a testament to the enduring human impulse to reach beyond the horizon. The night sky, once the province of myth and wonder, now brims with data and detail, yet the moon's silver glow retains its quiet power, beckoning us to look closer, to ask what lies beneath the surface and behind the shadowed hills. Each new lens, each new experiment is another step on a journey that began with a glance upward and continues ever more boldly into the dark. And so the story of our scrutiny unfolds, one of glass and metal, of rocket and rover, of eye and imagination. The moon, examined and explored, remains a world of questions, a sphere of silver mysteries waiting to be revealed by the next instrument, the next pair of hands, the next restless mind that dares to look up and wonder what more there is to find. With our gaze fixed on that luminous companion, we drift onward, suspended between past achievements and the promise of discoveries yet to come. The moon, ever watchful, awaits the return of those who would study, who would ask, who would dream. New instruments are being readied, new missions charted, and the silver sphere continues its slow dance above, inviting us to listen more closely, to see more deeply, and, perhaps, to step once again onto its ancient waiting plains. As the silent world above turns in its endless orbit, we prepare for the next chapter, when human presence and distant vision might converge once more upon the lunar soil, and the story of our connection will unfold in ways still undreamed. Moonbeams slip quietly across the floor, painting pale ribbons on the old wooden planks, as if the world itself is caught in a gentle, silvery breath. Outside, the night is cool and unhurried, and the moon, vast and patient, presides over all things with a gaze both ancient and newborn. The hush of midnight has settled, and within it the imagination stirs, as it has for as long as eyes have turned upward to the night sky. What is it about our moon, this familiar, enigmatic companion that so persistently calls to us in dreams, in science, in the secret corners of our hearts? For countless generations, the moon has been more than merely a rock adrift in the darkness. It has been a mirror, reflecting not only sunlight, but the unspoken longings and questions of humanity. There are those who say that to know the moon is to know something essential about ourselves, our yearning for understanding, our capacity for wonder, our hunger for stories and meaning. In the cool, blue-shadowed hours between dusk and dawn, the moon becomes a confidant, a keeper of secrets, a silent partner in the unfolding story of our species. Even in the earliest days, before language had settled into the grooves of grammar and poetry, the moon must have been a source of awe and speculation. Imagine the first humans gathered around a flickering fire, the embers competing with the spectral glow above. They would have noticed the moon's reliable cycles, the waxing and waning, the way it would sometimes vanish altogether, only to return, reborn and gleaming. Was it a god, they wondered, or a spirit, or perhaps a mighty lamp hung by some benevolent hand? Its face, marked with subtle shadows and shimmering planes, invited interpretation. Some saw the silhouette of a hare, others the pale visage of a woman, or the outline of a man burdened by sticks. The moon's mystery was never quite solved. It was only deepened, generation after generation, as stories wove themselves around its changing form. Yet alongside the poetry and myth, there grew a quiet, relentless curiosity, a desire to understand the moon, not just as a symbol, but as a world in its own right. Ancient astronomers, using nothing but careful observation and the simplest of tools, tracked the moon's movement across the sky. They noticed its phases coincided with the rhythms of the tides, the cycles of planting and harvest, the ebb and flow of animal migrations. In Mesopotamia, in Egypt, in China, in Mesoamerica, the moon was a calendar, its phases marking time in a manner both practical and profound. The lunar month became a unit of measurement, a heartbeat by which human life could be organized and anticipated. And yet, for all this familiarity, the moon has never quite surrendered its essential enigma. The same face greets us each night, a fact that early stargazers puzzled over. Why, they wondered, did the moon never turn to reveal its hidden side? The answer lies in a cosmic waltz, tidal locking, where the moon's rotation matches its orbit around Earth, so that one hemisphere always faces us, while the other remains forever out of sight. It is a dance choreographed by gravity over eons, a slow and inexorable synchrony. Even in this, there is poetry. The moon, ever present, is also partially unknown, a symbol of what is both seen and unseen in the world. As centuries passed and the tools of observation grew more precise, the moon's surface was mapped and named. Galileo, peering through his crude telescope in the early 17th century, was among the first to truly see the moon as it is, pitted and scarred, its surface marked by craters and mountains. The illusion of a smooth, polished sphere was shattered. The moon became instead a landscape, alien, battered, yet beautiful in its harshness. And so the moon's legacy grew, no longer just a clock or a canvas for myths, but a world, complex and deserving of exploration. And yet, for all the reach of science, the moon has never lost its power to evoke wonder. Perhaps this is because, Even as we unravel its secrets, the moon remains aloof, its beauty undiminished by knowledge. Indeed, every new discovery seems only to add new layers of fascination. The moon's rocks, brought back by astronauts, tell stories written in isotopes and crystal lattices, stories of cosmic violence, of molten seas, of slow cooling and relentless bombardment. Each story deepens the sense of connection. These rocks, after all, are kin to our own planets, shaped by the same primordial fire, bathed in the same starlight. But the moon's legacy is not confined to the domain of science or myth alone. It is woven into the fabric of human culture, a constant muse for poets, painters, and musicians. The moon has inspired sonnets and symphonies, lullabies and laments. To gaze at the moon is to be drawn into a lineage of contemplation, a chain that stretches from ancient cave dwellers to contemporary city dwellers, from the anonymous dreamers of forgotten ages to the astronauts who carried human footprints to its dust. The moon has become, in a sense, a universal inheritance, a symbol that belongs to all, yet is possessed by none. Consider the rituals and festivals that blossom beneath the full moon: harvest moons, mid-autumn celebrations, moon-viewing gatherings where friends and families sit together, sharing sweets and stories as the pale disk rides high above. In many cultures, the moon is a timekeeper, not just for agriculture, but for spiritual life. The Islamic calendar, for instance, is governed by the lunar cycle, with each crescent marking the start of a new month. In Judaism, too, the sighting of the new moon sets the rhythm of sacred observances. The moon becomes, in these traditions, a kind of celestial pulse, a reminder that there is order and meaning in the passage of time. In literature, the moon is almost always more than itself. It is a confidant to lovers, a witness to crimes and secrets, a symbol of longing and loss. Shakespeare, in his comedies and tragedies alike, invokes the moon as a silent watcher, a bringer of madness, a marker of fate. The moon's light, shifting and uncertain, becomes a metaphor for the inner workings of the human mind, a mind that is itself a landscape of shadows and shifting illumination. Even in modern times, beneath the glare of electric lights, the moon retains its quiet pull. It is a constant in a world that often feels in flux, a reminder that some rhythms endure no matter how much the world changes. The moon's phases are unhurried, immune to the pace of human affairs. Its presence invites reflection, a slowing down, a turning inward. To look up at the moon is to be reminded of one's own smallness and, paradoxically, one's connection to something vast and enduring. The moon's influence on human emotion and psychology is subtle yet profound. There is a word, selenophilia, the love of the moon. It is an affection shared by many, though seldom spoken aloud. The moon's light is unlike that of the sun. It is gentler, more forgiving, a light that softens edges and invites reverie. Under the moon, familiar landscapes become strange and magical. Shadows lengthen, colours pale, and the ordinary is transformed. For artists and dreamers, the moon is a wellspring of inspiration, a source of images and ideas that slip like water through the fingers. Yet alongside its allure, the moon carries a residue of unease. Folklore is replete with tales of lunacy, of transformations and hauntings that occur under the full moon's gaze. The word lunatic itself springs from the old belief that the moon's phases could unhinge the mind. There are stories of werewolves and witches, of sleepwalkers and fevered dreams. Even in the rational age, the moon's effect on human behavior is a subject of speculation and study. Emergency rooms sometimes report busier nights under a full moon, though the evidence remains elusive and contested. The moon, it seems, is a canvas for our fears as well as our hopes. This interplay of science, culture, and emotion is part of what makes the moon's legacy so enduring. It is not just an object to be measured, nor merely a symbol to be interpreted. It is both and more, a bridge between the tangible and the intangible, the measurable and the mysterious. The moon invites us to dwell in the space between certainty and wonder, to acknowledge that not all questions have answers and not all mysteries are meant to be solved. In the 20th century, the moon's story took a turn that would have seemed like pure fantasy to those first stargazers by the fire. Humans, fragile and earthbound, built machines that could cross the gulf of space. Rockets thundered skyward, and for the first time living eyes beheld the moon up close. The Apollo missions were, in one sense, a triumph of engineering and willpower. But they were also a triumph of imagination, a testament to the enduring allure of the moon. When Neil Armstrong stepped onto the lunar surface and spoke his measured words, the moment resonated far beyond the realm of science or politics. It was a moment of connection, a demonstration that the boundary between earth and sky was not impermeable. The moon, once a symbol of unattainable longing, became a place where human stories could unfold. The photographs returned from those missions, grey vistas, shadowed craters, the fragile blue crescent of Earth rising on the horizon, changed the way we see not only the moon, but ourselves. The Earthrise image, in particular, became an emblem of unity and fragility. From the moon, our planet is a small glowing jewel, adrift in the dark. The lunar perspective invites humility, a recognition that our divisions and struggles are, in the cosmic scheme, fleeting and inconsequential. The moon's legacy, in this sense, is not only what it reveals about itself, but what it teaches us about our own place in the universe. In the years since those first steps, the moon's presence has not diminished. Robotic explorers continue to map its surface, searching for water, for clues to its ancient past, for hints that might illuminate the broader story of the solar system. Plans are being laid once again for human return, for habitats and laboratories and perhaps even settlements. The moon, it seems, is not finished shaping our destiny. Its pale light continues to beckon, inviting new generations to imagine, to explore, to wonder. And all the while, the moon remains what it has always been, a companion in the night, a silent witness to the passage of time. Its phases mark the turning of months, the changing of seasons, the cycles of growth and decay. Its light falls with equal grace on city and wilderness, on mountain top and meadow, on the restless and the dreaming alike. Tonight, as the world turns quietly beneath the stars, the moon's beams slip through the window, softening the edges of sleep. Somewhere a child looks up and wonders. Somewhere a poet finds the right words. Somewhere a scientist runs a careful experiment, hoping to tease out one more secret. The moon endures, patient and luminous, its legacy unfolding in the minds and hearts of all who pause to gaze upward. There are those who say the moon is indifferent, a sphere of rock, battered and airless, content to circle its primary until the end of days. And yet it is hard to accept such detachment in the face of its enduring influence. The moon's pull is not only gravitational, it is emotional, cultural, existential. It tugs at the tides of our inner lives, shaping dreams, desires, and destinies. As the hours drift onward, the moon's light grows fainter, yielding to the slow advance of dawn. But its presence lingers, woven into stories, songs, and the quiet musings of those who lie awake, pondering the mysteries of the night. The moon's legacy is, perhaps, that it leaves us always a little restless, a little more aware of what we do not know, and a little more eager to seek it out. In the hush before morning, moonbeams still play across the floor. The old questions remain. What is it about the moon that calls to us? Why do we return to it, in science and in story, again and again? The answers are not simple, and perhaps they never will be. The moon, with all its beauty and mystery, waits patiently overhead, a constant companion as we continue our journey, ever seeking, ever wondering, ever dreaming beneath its watchful gaze. As our journey through the moon's curious mysteries gently drifts to a close, we watch its silver glow like a comet tail fading into the hush of space. Let your thoughts wander softly among the stars, pondering the strange and wondrous tales the night sky holds. Whenever your heart seeks more dreamtime mysteries, return with us beneath the cosmic veil, where wonder awaits in every whisper of stardust.